as up. There we go. Spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of our ByuN, we have the South Korean Terran player, the Blue Terran representing Shopify Rebellion. It is ByuN. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player, the Red Protoss representing Twisted Minds. It is Classic. Let's go. Let us go. Our TvP is upon us here, and already we're not even in the semis, by the way, but we're in the quarterfinals, and we have two Titans clashing here. Classic, one of the best Protoss in all of South Korea. We have ByuN as well, just now coming back from IM Katowice. For those that were here earlier this week when we were covering the ESL Open Cups, you would have noticed that the Koreans were missing. Most of them were missing because most of them were still traveling back home from Poland, from Katowice. So players like ByuN, players like Dark, Hero, Kior, they missed out. Oliveira actually, he came back early. But most of the Koreans, they missed out on ESL Open Cups this week because it was still in the midst of traveling, because IM finished on Sunday, and of course the events were on Monday, so they were still in the air as we were casting. But now they're back. They're back home, ready to rumble, ready to play, ready to compete, ready to perform. Let's go. So great to be back. Of course, Classic wasn't traveling. That's the downside here. The qualifiers for IM Katowice were brutal, and Classic failed to qualify for IEM. As a result, Classic was partaking in those ESL Open Cups, and he has been, training back at home, practicing, keeping himself up to date, and we'll see how he can perform. Doesn't have any jet lag to deal with, thankfully. ByuN, on the other hand, is still adapting, I'm sure, or maybe has already adapted. It's been a couple of days. Since he has returned. And we have our opener. It's going to be a double gas opener here at a ByuN, going for a Rax into Factory. It's going to be delayed CC from ByuN, focusing or prioritizing that Factory before the CC. Meanwhile, across the map, we do have Classic going for a Gate Expand into the Cybercore. Let's go. So we do have a more aggressive opener here out of ByuN. We have seen Cyclones become a really big part of the early game of TvP as of late. I mean, TvT as well. And as a result, we have our first Cyclone in production. Cyclone drop play has been quite popular in this matchup as well. It can do a surprising amount of damage here in the middle line. Speaking of, one probe already does go down. Yeah, one worker kill. The Reaper does fall, but did we scout the tech? That is the real question. I doubt it. Looking at the vision here of ByuN, he did not see the Stargate. Classic has been doing this recently. We casted Classic over the weekend. I think we casted Classic against Oliveira, if I recall correctly, on Monday. And Classic has been becoming more and more fun. Sorry, it was we casted Classic versus Nicaract. And the same thing, he threw down his tech here at the natural, not in the main base. It's become a little bit trendy here for Classic, and so far it has worked out. So far, he has kept it hidden. Meanwhile, Cyclone does get here across the map, does shut down that Adept. Adept will fall. Good pickoff. Likewise, Classic doesn't see much. He did confirm the opener earlier with his probe scouts, but is unaware of the follow-up. We can see it's going to be a 1-1-1. We spoke about a Cyclone drop earlier, and that is true. We do have a Cyclone, we do have a Medevac, but that is a very early tank. An insanely early tank here from ByuN. We're going for a tank drop. We are moving out before sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, back at home, Classic opening up Stargate, going into Phoenixes, setting up for Phoenix Colossus. Now, with this robo, we can make Safety Immortals. We have 2 shield batteries already ready. We have an overcharge setup as well. Very defensive setup here by Classic. Despite not really seeing too much, he saw the Cyclones, saw these 2 production buildings, but not much else. Regardless, he is set up defensively. Meanwhile, our tank drop is moving out. Classic should be prepared for this. Again, once the robo finishes, we should be seeing an Immortal. Phoenixes, they get across the map. They bypass the army. Ooh, and ByuN does turn back around. Does turn around for a moment, and he will respond with a Cyclone. 2 SCVs do get picked off. But ByuN, he is not slowing down. Was just waiting for a second tank. And I don't see an Immortal, I see an Observer. Ooh, risky move here at a Classic. He had the option to play it safe, but no, he takes a risk, goes Observer first. That means the Immortal isn't ready. Uh-oh, the Immortal, it's not ready. Here we go, Immortal now on the way after the Observer, and the tanks, they have arrived. And without an Immortal, I'm worried. I'm worried here for Classic. One tank is going to be going down. One tank for 3 Stalkers. 3 Stalkers do fall. Shield batteries are exposed. Reinforcements have arrived. We do focus on one of the shield batteries. We get one. We're going to get the other. Again, the Immortal just now popping out, but will it arrive in time? It will. Just before it gets depowered, but it's not going to be enough. We have too much DPS, too much of an army. And it looks like ByuN, with this 2-base push, has done it. GG gets called. ByuN takes game number 1. GG. Again, I had assumed that Classic had read this and had like snuffed this out, or sniffed this out, when he threw down both shield batteries. That was a really big response for Classic to throw down 2 shield batteries at his natural base. I'd assumed that maybe he was familiar with ByuN's build, maybe he was familiar with his playstyle on Alcyone and was setting up defensively. He kind of was, but again, he did delay his Immortal there. He was not aware of the push that was coming out. If you remember, the goal of those Phoenixes was to scout, was to get eyes on the move out, but he missed it. He went for the mineral line, he saw a Cyclone, he did not see the double tank drop, he didn't see the early game tank production, so very limited vision there out of Classic. As a result, he wasn't ready with that first Immortal. Immortals, they do so much DPS to tanks. It would have been a much cleaner defense if he had had it in time, focused on the tanks, and then we would have seen a hold. 100% we would have seen a hold from there. Unfortunately, was not aware of what ByuN was bringing to the table, what was coming across the map. GG. GG, well played. With that, game 1 is in the books, and we're diving into game number 2. Let's go. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Hello, alive in the wired. Hello. Not first, which is not always a bad thing. Thank you for not coming first, alive in the wired. Also, welcome, drifting Silumgar. There we go. I had to read that for a moment. I wanted to say Slim. Silumgar, Soundo, Dali. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Oh, right. I shouted you out earlier, but I think I was muted. A big shout to Dali for the 69-month sub. Nice. Thank you so much, Dali, for the sub. 69 months. That's a lot of months. That's so long. We always appreciate the support. Thank you. Long time supporter. Not quite an OG CranKy Duckling, but a CranKy Duckling nonetheless. ¿Cómo estás? As we are getting into game number 2 and spawning in the top left-hand corner. In the top left-hand corner, we have our blue Terran player representing Shopify Rebellion, leading the series 1-0. It is ByuN. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss, the red Protoss player representing Twisted Minds. It is Classic. Let's go. Again, we couldn't really sink our teeth into game 1. Game 1 was basically ByuN going for a very early tank drop, going for a double tank drop in the early game. He had a 3rd CC on the way behind it, by the way, and it just got unscouted. It just didn't get scouted. Classic didn't know what was happening. Classic was caught with his pants down. GG. You know, it was over and then and there. We'll see how things differ here in game number 2, as ByuN once again is opening up double gas. Double gas opener, so just like the last game, faster factory. Faster factory is going to be on the way. This doesn't mean it has to be a fast tank again, but it could be. That's the thing, right? Like, there's a lot of flexibility you can have with a double gas opener. You can go into a factory, into a starport, into a 1-base all-in, which is not unheard of on Oceanborn. We have seen Gumiho whip out 1-base all-ins in the past. This could just be a racks into factory into expand, could lead into a cyclone drop, could lead into a tank drop, as we saw, could lead into a Widowmine drop. There is a lot available here for ByuN. We could even commit into Widowmines, go up to like 4 Widowmines with an armory and force detection out of your opponents. We'll see what ByuN does decide to whip out here in game 2. Meanwhile, across the map, gate expand from Classic, and this time he is not hiding his tech. This time he doesn't throw down his Stargate here at the natural. It's going to be in the main base, and it is in fact going to be the Stargate. So looking to be another Phoenix opener, not Blink, and unlikely to be Oracles. If we were casting Hero, I would say, no, yeah, most likely an Oracle opener. Hero is quite fond of it, but outside of Hero, it's typically a Phoenix. Here we go, we have our first Cyclone on the way, CC on the low ground. Reaver trying to get some scout information, does dip in, does get eyes on the Stargate. So ByuN is now aware of the tech. He's aware of what Classic is working with. And there it is, Phoenix is in production. Again, technically this could be an Oracle opener, but it's very out of favor. It's very out of meta. Not really seen too often. So ByuN can make some assumptions here. Behind this, getting into his starport. Once again, we do have a Cyclone straight into the tech lab. This can lead into early game tank production. We could go for an add-on swap. Banshee openers, both ByuN and Maru have been playing around with Banshee-based openers. It was very common, very popular back in December, but there is no add-on swap, and we are actually going for a Liberator and a second Cyclone despite the tech lab. Very interesting. Okay, so fun fact, if a hallucination came in, or if the Phoenix sees this, this looks just like game one. Unironic, this looks just like game one when it comes to the add-on setup, when it comes to the production. So very interesting choice here by ByuN. Second Cyclone is on the way. From this second Cyclone, we should then be getting into tanks, I imagine? No. Okay. The mind games are real. Very interesting. For those that are curious as to why I'm so perplexed or why I'm so intrigued by this, you don't need a tech lab. You don't need a tech lab to make Cyclones not anymore. Which is why scouting this would make you believe it was tanks. And there we go. Phoenix comes in and we see the tech lab. And we do have Immortals on the way. Fun fact, this time Immortal first. Remember, last game what killed Classic, or part of what killed Classic, is the fact that he went Observer first. This time Immortal first. It means he has that much less scouting information, but he's that much safer back at home, setting up for a third base. Transitioning into Phoenix Colossus, second Immortal is on the way. Very safe play here at a Classic. And ByuN is going for a third CC. I love this. I love this out of ByuN. Again, he's basically faking out the same aggression that he had the previous game, going for a very greedy follow-up. This is a very fast third CC for a TvP. Moves out with his Cyclones. He's going to be poking in. But he shouldn't be committing. Or can he, though? Good force field out of Classic. Does focus on one of those Cyclones. Behind this, Liberator does get into the main base again. ByuN, his army was just designed to distract, and he does. 6 workers go down. Well worth a Liberator. Again, a good move here out of ByuN. He had no intention of breaking the third base. He just wanted to distract the army. And Classic is going for a counterattack. And he has to. He just lost 6 workers. He's fully behind in the economy. Does have a third on the way, but so does ByuN. ByuN's is already done. Classic is pushing. Behind this, bunker not quite finished. Bunker is going to be cancelled. ByuN, he does try to pounce on this army. Good force field. Very nice force field here on the rim. Marines, they are cut off, but the tank does siege. The tank does siege in time. Classic going to be able to barely back off here. Clutch target firing at a Classic does focus on the Cyclones and backs the hell off. Did take a little bit of hull damage, but didn't lose anything too major. Lost his sentry. Really, that was it. Will retreat. His third base is getting up and running. We're getting into Colossus production. And behind this, ByuN is getting into his own third base saturation as well. Before that does occur, we do manage to get into the mineral line. Ooh, no anti-air. 3, 4 SV is going to be going down. Good damage done here by Classic. Very necessary damage as well to make sure he doesn't fall behind economically. Considering he didn't really invest too hard into these Phoenixes, he's doing well. He's doing well with them. Is doing well. Only 3. Gets full eyes on the production. Does confirm the 5-rack setup. Very standard here on 3 bases. Or even standard on 2 bases even. As Phoenixes will back off. Or try to at least. And the game will settle from here. And oh, this is a bold move. This is a build that Classic and Hero have been playing around with. We've been seeing this more from Classic though in this matchup. We saw it a couple of weeks ago, not at IEM of course, but a couple of weeks ago. Was it in ESL Open Cup? I think so. But Classic has been quite fond of rushing into Skytoss. Fleet Beacon, a second Stargate on the way. This is very greedy here at a Classic. as he's going to be left quite vulnerable. He only has 2 Colossi, only has a handful of gateway units here on the low ground to support them. If ByuN were to move out, then Classic will be in trouble. But has Classic gotten eyes on the 4th CC? The answer is no, I believe. Yeah, he hasn't seen the 4th base. But basically what's happening here is that ByuN, he's working on the next step. He's working on his 4th, working on a later game. Which means, yes, ByuN is harassing, but he's not pushing. He's not pushing, he's not committing. Classic should get away with this. We can see him moving out with a small force here on the left. Going for harassing damage, does scan, does get eyes on both Colossi. That is a bit of a tell. There should be a 3rd Colossus, just now coming out. But we should have already gotten there by now. 4th base on the way. That 3rd Colossus was delayed. And ByuN is going for the 4th base, at the same time going for a double drop into the natural. Does go in, very little to defend. Classic will defend his 4th, does get a kill on the tank. And this drop is going to be deflected as well. Oh, no without losses as we get 12 work kills, 13. Oh my god, 13 probes do go down. We do chase down one of those medevacs, but Classic will hold. And the carriers, they have arrived. The carriers have arrived. Now, it's still going to take some time here. 2 carriers isn't amazing. We still have to hit critical mass. We're ideally looking at 4, maybe even 6 carriers. Speaking of, 3rd and 4th carrier in production as we speak. But essentially, Classic is relinquishing map control. He has no presence on the map. He's stuck at home, stuck defending, which means ByuN can be greedy. We do have the 4th base on the way. We could work on a 5th. We're taking up into Ghost production. 2nd starport. Vikings going to be on the way. We do scan ahead of time. Carriers are going to be revealed. Carriers are revealed. Mine shots go off. Oof. Bit of friendly fire, but they do take down a lot of those interceptors. Cloak is activated. Do we have a scan? We do! We dive on the carriers and we can focus them down. The Marines, they're a little bit too much here. They focus down both carriers. No shot. They get 1. And they barely get the 2nd as well. The Hero Marines, there were only 8 of them. And they still broke through. They almost get the Robo as well. And Classic will defend, but these were expensive losses. Again, he refused to rotate over with the rest of his army. No Colossus to support. 2 carriers go down. And ByuN, he can rebuild his Marines quite easily. Classic, those carriers were expensive. And now he's pushing. He has to. But ByuN, he's already rebuilding his army. He's up in army supply. Up in economy. He's got 85 SCVs plus mules. Again, he was so greedy, recognizing that Classic was being defensive, was being passive. Classic backs off, a wise move. I feel like he would have lost everything if he had attacked. And I feel like Classic is just stuck at home. I think he's just going to be perpetually stuck at home until he maxes out. The question becomes, can Classic survive? Can he survive until he does max out? Because ByuN, he's going to get there first. And the scary thing about this army here is that ByuN now has his 2nd starport. Now he's got double starport production, making 4 Vikings at a time. +1 ship weapons on the way. +3 attack. On top of that, he has EMPs with the Ghost. Like, he has so much DPS. So much firepower. And Classic, he is in trouble. What do we have here to defend? We have 1 shield battery, 1 overcharge. EMPs do connect with the ground army. And with the mothership. Does looking for a way in. Does connect with the EMPs once again. Yeah, just waiting out that cloak. Classic trying to push in. Does throw down the slow zone. Mine shot's going to be going off. Classic, he's gaining ground. Does push forward. The Vikings, they have arrived. Mothership does back off, and Classic is able to take a decent fight here. Again, he was able to buy time with the cloak, buy time with the slow zone. And now he has a decent army. He's up to 4 carriers, soon to be 5, soon to be 6. Oh, we are supply blocked. How many Colossus do we have? 3 Colossus. God, we're building up so many Vikings. After that, we can get into Liberator production. How many Vikings do we have? 10. 10 Vikings. We have 2 CCs on the way. A Dune drop on the right-hand side. I love the idea of Dune drops just because this army is very immobile. We can, of course, recall. We have 2 recalls, technically. But without recall, Classic is going to have a hard time keeping up. Here we go. The Dune drop comes in. Dive into that natural base. Robo going to be going down. Snipe the Robo. We get on top of the Nexus. Carriers are responding at the same time on the left-hand side. Try to push in decent EMPs. There's just too much Protoss. That's going to be a kill in the base. We can't kill the carriers, unfortunately. Limited anti-air. The Marauders can't do much to the carriers. Meanwhile, ByuN's main army does get pushed back, but he did kill a base. He killed the base and, of course, the Robo as well. Still doing what he can with these Marauders, getting more probe kills. 19 workers go down. The economy of Classic in shambles, and this is a little bit scary because as he loses interceptors, he doesn't have a bank to rebuild. Not anymore. There is no bank. Classic making 4 probes at a time is expanding towards the left-hand side. So far, I believe not scattered by ByuN. Doesn't see. But how many Vikings now? We had 10, now we're up to 14, soon to be 18. More Vikings on the way. Liberator production has commenced. A 3rd starport in production. Again, ByuN, he is transitioning into Sky Terran. And I worry for Classic, we need more to support here. Storm is done. Ooh, a bit of a misclick there. Classic does waste his recall. It's a little bit concerning. Nova goes off, takes down a Ghost. I think he wanted to maybe slow zone. I'm not too sure, but here we go. We're diving in. We're forcing ourselves up the ramp. 1 carrier goes down. Again, the Vikings are just going ham here. They take down the Colossus. There's 2 Colossi left. 6 carriers. Mothership going to be rotating around. There is no forest of missile turrets. Storm will zone back those Vikings. And the base is going to fall. It looks like we have 1 Storm left. And I believe that was the final Storm. And now we can push in. Good kiting here with the Vikings. We're down to 3 carriers. Down to 3 carriers. The Mothership went down. Still no more Storms. ByuN, as he remaxes, he is pushing forward. Meanwhile, another base has been found. And ByuN getting knocked down to 4 CCs. Against the 4 Nexus of his opponent, the Liberators have arrived. Liberation is here. We have the freedom. Oh my god, they annihilate those Stalkers. Every Stalker goes down. The Colossus goes down. The Vikings, they just rain down here on the carriers and everything falls. The Sky Toss, the Colossus. Again, Viking Lib is kind of what you want here against the late game Protoss army. The Ghost, the EMPs, they played their part. And ByuN takes a massive supply lead. And to be fair, a lot of that was because we ran out of Storms. We just ran out of Storms, which means we could not stop ByuN from pouncing on the army. And without those extra Storms, we can push in. Oh, the High Templar, no! Get out of here. They're gonna be chased down. Now, what does Classic have left? He has a Gateway army. He has a couple of Disruptors. Nova's going to be going off. Good target firing on the Liberators. Ooh. But the Novas will not connect. GG gets called. ByuN, he lands the Vikings, he cleans it up, and he will take the series 2-0. GG, well played. Again, really patient play out of ByuN. I feel, oh, wait, hold on. There we go. GG, well played. Really patient play out of ByuN. Honestly, it was a really scary moment when we saw Classic rotate around. I don't know if you remember, I should have emphasized it a little bit more, but ByuN, he was setting up a field of missile turrets at that forward base, on the left hand side, at that, I believe it was his 5th base. Yeah, his 5th base. He had a field of missile turrets. Once Classic saw that, he avoided it. He rotated around, he went to the 4th base and the 6th base as well, and he was able to fight out of range of those turrets, and he was doing quite well for himself. He was doing a great job zoning away the army with those storms, but he only had 4 High Templar. Only 4 High Templar, and I believe 2 of them got EMP'd, so he had very limited storms available. And once they ran out, they were doing a great job zoning away the army, but once they ran out, then ByuN just pounced. He just dove on in, he was able to focus down and pick apart the army, unit after unit, and there was nothing to really slow ByuN down after that. You could definitely argue that Classic maybe did overstay his welcome. After he killed the planetary, at that moment, he probably should have backed off, unless he had more storms, then he could stick around, but yeah, from there, he probably needed to retreat, as he had nothing to, again, to stop or to slow down ByuN. GG. GG, well played. ByuN does take the series here 2-0. We'll advance on to the semifinals, and we have another quarterfinals match ahead of us. We have a TvT here between Cure and Oliveira. Let's go.